In this video, we're going to get into a little bit of animation finally. We're going to move some objects around the screen. So first off, I just want to say that I made this Pygame template file for myself. You can go ahead and make your own. What I'm doing is I'm just importing Pygame in random, and I'm initializing Pygame. I've got 5 colors here. I've picked the size of the window, which I'm just going to set as a default of 800 by 600. And I set the caption to just caption, so I'll remember to set that to whatever I want for my game. And then I've got my clock speed that I'm going to pick later, and I've got my done. Here's my while loop, and you can see I have currently set my refresh rate to 60 frames, so it will limit it so Pygame will only draw 60 frames each second. And I'm updating my screen is the last thing that I do. Now the order of what happens inside this while loop is pretty important, and the order that you want to do things is you want to get input from the user, so the user presses a key or clicks the mouse or moves the mouse or something like that. You get input from the user, then you need to process the input in some sort of way, so do some calculations. Was there a collision, or did the user click on a button or something like that? And then the last thing that you always want to do is you want to draw stuff to the screen after that, and then update the display. Okay, so the very first thing that we want to do is get input from the user, and that's kind of what this section is talking about, right? If someone clicks on the little X in the top right corner and closes the window, then we want the window to close. So done is true, and we'll jump out of the loop. We're not actually getting any other input from the user, so I'm not going to be putting anything in there today. We're not doing any processing kind of at the moment. So we will in a little bit, but not at this very moment. What we want to do first is we want to draw something to the screen. So we want to draw a rectangle. So pygame.draw.rectangle. And where do I want to draw it? Well, I call my thing window again. So I want to draw it to the window. And what color do I want it to be? Well, let's go blue, I guess. And where do I want this rectangle to be? So where do I want the top left corner of the rectangle to be? Well, my whole screen is going to be 800 by 600. So let's say 50 over and 50 down from the top left corner is where the top left corner of my rectangle will be. And let's say my rectangle is 50 by 50. It's really just a square. And I want it filled in, so I'll put 0 for my width. So if I run my program, there's my rectangle. It's 50 by 50, and it started drawing it 50 over and 50 down from the top left corner. Here's caption. I can move my screen around, and I can close it. So that's good. Now I want to actually move this thing around the screen. So what I could do is I could start trying to like copy and paste a whole bunch of these. And then instead of 50 over and 50 down for the top left corner, I could say 150 over and 150 down, and then 200 over and 200 down. But if I run it, what's going to happen is it's going to draw all 3 rectangles, right? I want it to actually draw this one, kind of erase it, and then draw a new one, and then erase it, and just keep moving it each time. So the way we have to do that is we have to use variables, right? We have to somehow be able to change the values of where I'm drawing this. And so the variable that I'm going to use is x for how far over and y for how far down. Now if I try to run it right now, I'm going to get an error. And the error, well, I won't, let's run it. You can see it's got an error right here. X and y, it says x is not defined. That's the only place that I'm using x in the whole program, and it doesn't know what x is. So what I can do is up here at the top, I can say that just x is quote quote, so just make it so it's defined somewhere. But I actually know I want the program to start where it's 50 over, right? And the y value that I want it to start at is 50 as well. Now this is kind of nice the way it is. But if I've got 2 things that I want to be set to the same thing, we can say x equals y equals 50. In other words, x and y are both equal to 50. So if I run this again, you can see x and y are both equal to 50. So we've got a good start here. So what I need to do next is I need to process this x and the y. I need to do something with them. So if I say x equals x plus 1 right here, and I run it now, you can see this square looks like it's stretching out. Well, that's actually not what's happening. This square is not stretching. What's happening is I'm not ever erasing, and I'm saying erasing with quotation marks, I'm never erasing this rectangle. Okay, so if instead of moving it over by 1 each time, I were to move it over 51 each time, it'll be easier to see. You can see it drew a block here, and then one here, and then one here, and here, and here, and here, and here, and here, and it kept drawing those squares across the screen, and it's still going. So it's still going over there, and it's only going to stop when I hit close, or when the integer value gets so high that Python says, nope, sorry, you're past the limit of integers. Okay, so I'm going to change this back to a 1. The way that I need to erase this is I need to say window dot fill, and my background is black, so I'll say black. So what's going to happen is I'm going to draw my rectangle, and then I'm going to fill in the background, and then I'm going to update my screen. So if I run this, it looks like my block is gone. It's actually still there. It's going across right now. The only problem is the order. I'm drawing my rectangle, and then I'm filling the whole window black. So I need to fill the window black before I draw my rectangle. So under this drawing thing, I need to fill my window, so draw the background, cover the whole thing black, and then draw my rectangle on top of that. So if I run it again one more time, it looks like my block is moving across the screen. What's actually happening is I'm drawing black over the whole screen, and then I'm drawing my rectangle onto the background. And then, and this happens 60 times in 1 second. Then I'm black over the whole screen, and I move the rectangle over 1, right? I added 1 to my value of x, and then I'm redrawing that rectangle 1 over. And then I'm covering the whole screen, and I'm adding 1 to x, so I'm moving it over 1, and I'm redrawing that rectangle again. I just keep doing that, and I'm doing that 60 times in a second, so it looks like my rectangle is nice and smooth moving over on the background, when in reality it's like flipping through a book, and I've got a whole bunch of pictures going, and each picture that I've drawn, I've moved my rectangle over 1. Now I can move y at the same time as well, right? So y is y plus 1, and if I run that, you can see my rectangle is, I should just say square, is moving down and to the right, because every time I draw a new picture, I'm going 1 to the right and 1 down, and then drawing the new one. 1 to the right, 1 down, drawing the new one. 1 to the right, 1 down, drawing the new one. Over and over and over again 60 times in a second. Now, of course, you can make this go in the opposite direction, right? If I put x as x minus 1 and I run the program, you can see it's going towards the left because I'm subtracting from the x's. Same thing with the y's. If I say x is x plus 1, but I say y minus equals 1, which again means y is itself, but take away 1, and I run that, it's going up. Why? Because I'm subtracting from the y's while I'm adding to the x's. Now, one problem you could easily have, which is, remember the last video, which is a logical error, I could have this thing right inside my loop. So if I said x and y are 50, and I had that inside my loop rather than before my loop, what's going to happen is, when I run it, the square's not going anywhere. And the reason why is, at the start of my loop I'm saying x and y are 50. Okay, add 1 to x and subtract 1 from y. Draw it. And it comes back up to the top, and then it resets it back to 50 again, and then says move it over 1 and down, move it over 1 and up 1, draw it again. Reset back to 50. So every time it moves it over and up 1, the next time through the loop it resets it back to its starting place, resets it back to its starting place, and it's just stuck in that one spot. So this x and y equaling 50 has to be before your main loop. This is just the starting place for them. And then once we're in the main loop, we're going to be moving it around from there. So there you have it. There's your first look at animating an object using Pygame.